A former Republican president tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
As the political landscape simmers with anticipation, the 2024 election emerges as the most likely battleground for a heated rematch between former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden. The echoes of the intense 2020 election linger, creating a tense atmosphere and setting the stage for a dramatic political face-off. With both Trump and Biden gearing up for a potential return to the forefront of American politics, the stakes are undeniably high. Most recently, President Joe Biden delivered a fiery and historic State of the Union address. True to form, Trump did not disappoint, providing live, play-by-play reactions throughout most of the speech. Biden's historic speech. President Biden's State of the Union speech was a highly anticipated event, and it did not disappoint. From the moment he took the stage, it was clear that Biden was ready to make a bold statement and set the tone for his presidency. This speech was not a typical State of the Union, but rather a campaign kickoff, as Biden framed the year as a choice between his vision for America and that of his predecessor. He began by addressing his predecessor without mentioning Donald Trump by name, but leaving no doubt about whom he was referring to. Biden outlined sharply divergent views of America, its government, and its role in the world, contrasting them with the policies and actions of his predecessor.
A former Republican president tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
The president talked about how his predecessor had tried to rewrite the history of the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, and how he had failed to address the pandemic as it began to rage across the nation. Biden also criticized Trump's approach to China, accusing him of doing little to combat the country's influence. Additionally, he highlighted Trump's inaction on gun violence, pointing out the need for stronger measures to protect American lives. The structure of Biden's speech was highly intentional. He strategically contrasted his own views and actions with those of his predecessor before delving into his own accomplishments and proposals. By doing so, he emphasized the choice between two candidates and framed the year ahead as a stark contrast between his vision for America and that of the previous administration. Throughout the speech, Biden seemed to relish tangling with Republican lawmakers. He responded to their heckles and taunts with quick retorts, demonstrating his ability to think on his feet and engage with his rivals. At one point, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia yelled during the speech, suggesting that Biden's son should pay his taxes. Biden held up a pin that Greene had been distributing, calling attention to the name of a nurse in Georgia who had been killed. He declared, "An innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal," using the term that many Democrats have retired. This moment showcased Biden's willingness to confront controversial issues head-on and engage in political discourse. The president's address was a clear indication of his determination to be a fighter and someone who still has the energy to engage with his rivals, both politically and on the global stage. Biden and his advisors had prepared for this interplay with Republican Party lawmakers, believing that people are looking for a leader who can stand up for their values. By avoiding extremes and striking a balance between assertiveness and anger, Biden successfully navigated the challenges of engaging with Republicans while maintaining his own political agenda. In the middle part of President Biden's State of the Union speech, he shifted his focus to the state of the economy and the impact of his policies. Biden faced a fundamental tension as he stepped onto the speaker's rostrum. While many economic indicators were showing positive signs, a majority of Americans still expressed concerns about the direction of the country and doubted the effectiveness of Biden's policies. To address these concerns, Biden embarked on a balancing act. He began by boasting about the soaring consumer confidence and the drop in inflation. However, he recognized that these statistics alone might not be enough to convince the American people. Instead, he urged them to remember the depths of 2020 and compare it to the progress the nation has made under his leadership. Biden emphasized that he inherited an economy on the brink and highlighted the remarkable recovery that has taken place. He credited the resilience and hard work of the American people for the nation's economic success. By acknowledging the challenges faced and the progress made, Biden aimed to connect with the public on a personal level and instill confidence in his ability to lead the country forward. Throughout his speech, Biden incorporated tangible and populist-infused items to further connect his agenda with the public. He mentioned the inclusion of more candy and chips in snack bags, lower credit card fees, and his commitment to raising taxes on the super wealthy. These specific examples were intended to resonate with everyday Americans and demonstrate that his policies were designed to benefit the majority. In addition to economic matters, Biden also took a moment to criticize the media's portrayal of the recovery. He referred to it as the greatest comeback story never told, suggesting that the media had not adequately highlighted the progress that had been made. By doing so, Biden aimed to shape the narrative and ensure that the American people were aware of the positive developments under his administration. Another significant aspect of Biden's speech was on the issue of abortion.
My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it. Look at the chaos that has resulted.
He dedicated more time to this topic than ever before, highlighting the victories Democrats had achieved since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Biden expressed confidence that the power of women would be a driving force in the 2024 elections, specifically citing the issue of reproductive freedom. This explicit political call to arms underscored the importance of abortion rights in his administration's agenda and highlighted his commitment to protecting women's rights. In the final part of President Biden's State of the Union speech, he aimed to combat the notion that he is too old for a second term. Determined to address concerns about his age, Biden delivered his remarks with feisty energy and vitality, proving that he still possesses the vigor and determination necessary to lead the nation. Throughout his speech, Biden spoke with conviction and at times in what seemed like a near shout. He sparred with Republican lawmakers, engaging in spirited exchanges on topics such as tax cuts and immigration. This demonstrated his ability to think on his feet and engage in political discourse, earning him high marks for being quick-witted and assertive. As he neared the end of his speech, Biden even made a lighthearted joke about his age. He stated, "I know I may not look like it, but I've been around a while," drawing chuckles from the audience. By acknowledging his experience and the wisdom that comes with age, Biden aimed to dispel concerns about his competency and assure the American people that he is fully capable of leading the nation. While Biden was delivering his speech, former President Donald Trump's reaction to the speech was nothing short of explosive. In a series of posts on his social media platform, Truth Social, Trump didn't hold back in expressing his disapproval of Biden's address, describing it as angry, polarizing, and the worst State of the Union speech ever made. Trump made it unmistakably clear that he considered the speech an embarrassment to the country. Throughout Biden's address, Trump provided a live play-by-play fact check to his followers, offering immediate reactions and highlighting what he perceived as inaccuracies. Trump noted that Biden barely touched upon the urgent matter of immigration. The former president contended that Biden's omission regarding the worst border in the history of the world strongly suggested his lack of intention to address and rectify the ongoing. Biden talked about the Snickers bars before he talked about the border, Trump wrote. Trump went on to claim that Biden actually wanted the country to be flooded with migrants, a stance that he believed would lead to a rapid increase in crime levels. Trump's criticism of Biden's immigration policies struck a chord with his supporters, who had long been concerned about the border crisis. They saw Biden's approach as weak and ineffective, allowing for an influx of migrants without proper vetting or control. Trump's assertion that crime would rise to unprecedented levels resonated with those who believed that a secure border was crucial for the safety and well-being of the nation. But it wasn't just immigration that Trump took issue with. He also criticized Biden's handling of the economy, accusing him of neglecting to address the pressing economic challenges facing the country. According to Trump, Biden's speech failed to offer any concrete solutions or plans for economic growth. Instead, Trump claimed that Biden's focus was on divisive rhetoric and attacking his predecessor. In response to Biden's comments on the economy, Trump took to Truth Social to highlight his own achievements during his presidency. He emphasized the record-low unemployment rates, stock market gains, and increased business investment that occurred under his administration. Trump's supporters applauded his economic track record and viewed Biden's remarks as an attempt to downplay his accomplishments. Donald Trump also complained about Joe Biden shouting and coughing in dozens of bizarre all-caps posts on his Truth Social platform. "Don't shake people's hands going out. He keeps coughing into his right hand," the former president wrote. Following President Joe Biden's State of the Union address, the responses from Democrats and Republicans highlighted the deep political divide in the country as the election loomed closer. While some Democrats praised Biden's speech as spectacular and one of the finest State of the Union addresses they had ever seen, Republicans echoed former President Donald Trump's criticism, characterizing Biden's speech as that of an angry old man and radical. California Representative and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was among the Democrats who lauded Biden's speech. speech, commending his vigor, vision, and patriotism. She described it as a spectacular display of leadership and one of the finest State of the Union addresses she had ever witnessed. Pelosi's praise reflected the sentiment of many Democrats who saw Biden's speech as a strong defense of his policies and a clear articulation of his vision for the country. On the other hand, Republicans, including Texas Senator Ted Cruz, were quick to align themselves with Trump's assessment of Biden's speech. Cruz characterized Biden as an angry, bitter individual who spent the entire night screaming. He accused Biden of being radical and extreme, echoing Trump's criticisms of the president's policies and approach. Alabama Senator Katie Britt, who delivered the Republican Party response to Biden's address, took aim at the president's administration, stating that the current commander-in-chief was not in command. She criticized Biden's leadership, arguing that the free world deserved better than a dithering and diminished leader. Britt emphasized the importance of secure borders, stable prices, safe streets, and a strong defense as the cornerstones of a great nation, aligning herself with the Republican Party's core values. The responses from Democrats and Republicans to Biden's State of the Union speech underscored the deep divisions within the political landscape leading up to the election. Democrats rallied behind Biden, praising his leadership and vision for the country. They saw his speech as a strong defense of his policies and a call for unity and progress. On the other hand, Republicans aligned themselves with Trump's criticisms, characterizing Biden's speech as divisive and lacking in decency or generosity towards his fellow Americans. They emphasized the need for strong leadership and a focus on core conservative values such as secure borders and a strong defense. As the election draws nearer, the responses from Democrats and Republicans to Biden's State of the Union address provide a glimpse into the political landscape. The deep divisions and contrasting visions for the country set the stage for a highly contentious campaign, with both sides vying to convince the American people that their approach is the right one. Biden versus Trump election. The 2024 election is setting off to become a race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Back in 2020, Trump left the White House being a loser. In a stunning turn of events, Trump has orchestrated a remarkable comeback, defying all odds and setting the stage for a high-stakes showdown with Biden. Merely 3 years after Trump's departure amidst the disgrace of the Capitol riot, a moment he incited with the words, "Fight like hell," and despite facing 4 impending criminal trials, he orchestrates a comeback for the ages within the Republican primary. Super Tuesday proved to be Trump's triumphant return, emerging victorious in the Republican primaries of Virginia, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Maine, Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, Colorado, Minnesota, Massachusetts, and California. The former president surged ahead. Each win in these influential states brought him closer to a potential face-off against his 2020 rival in the general election, a contest where polls indicate he holds at least an even chance of reclaiming victory. Following his remarkable victories on Super Tuesday, Donald Trump solidified his dominance within the Republican Party and showcased his imperviousness to scandals and shame that would have derailed most political careers. Trump's wins in key states obliterated any hypothetical path to the nomination for his last Republican Party rival, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who subsequently announced her exit from the race. Trump's cruise through the Republican primaries underscored his utter control over the party. His ability to energize his base with promises of retribution against his enemies resonated with hundreds of thousands of Republican voters. He painted a dark picture of a nation paralyzed by crime, invaded by migrants, and on the brink of World War III. Trump's rhetoric tapped into the fears and frustrations of his supporters, who saw him as the only candidate willing to take on these perceived threats. The support for Trump among grassroots Republican Party voters was unwavering, as evidenced by the long lines of supporters donning "Make America Great Again" regalia at his early campaign events in frigid Iowa and New Hampshire. His ability to create an alternative reality, convincing many that he did not actually lose the 2020 election, further solidified the bond between Trump and his most faithful supporters. Despite facing headwinds like 2 impeachments, 91 criminal charges, 4 criminal trials, a pending $450 million civil court judgment, and a legacy marred by chaotic leadership during a pandemic, Trump's surge toward the Republican Party nomination remained unstoppable. His manipulation of his indictments, including his attempt to steal the 2020 election, only energized his supporters and branded him as a persecuted dissident fighting against a corrupt system. The resilience of Trump's political star was evident, particularly after an extraordinary moment inside an Atlanta jail. Trump became the first former president to provide a mugshot as he surrendered following his 4th criminal indictment. However, rather than cowering in shame, Trump weaponized his misfortune, claiming persecution by the administration of his successor to prevent his political comeback. This narrative of political martyrdom resonated deeply with his Republican true believers, leading to a surge in fundraising and effectively clipping the wings of potential potential 2024 Republican Party rivals. Former Vice President Mike Pence, who initially refused to aid Trump's Constitution busting on January 6th, quickly realized that there was no room in the modern Republican Party for standing up for democracy. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis also misjudged the desires of Republican voters, believing that they sought the same "Make America Great Again" extremism without the chaos. However, the campaign of the last standing Haley ultimately disproved the conventional wisdom that anti-Trump forces in the party would soon overwhelm him in a one-on-one race. Trump emerged victorious, beating all his rivals, and now stands ready to take on Biden in the general election. His dominance within the Republican Party is undeniable, and his ability to rally his base and tap into their fears and frustrations has solidified his position as the presumptive Republican Party nominee. As the 2024 United States presidential election looms, the nation anticipates an epic political showdown between two profoundly different candidates. Divergence in perspectives spans a multitude of critical issues, from abortion access to healthcare, education to the economy, foreign policy to border security, LGBT rights to climate change, and democracy. These varied stances play a pivotal role in shaping the contours of each candidate's campaign. On the matter of abortion, Biden emerges as a pro-choice advocate, emphasizing the protection of reproductive rights and access to safe and legal abortion services. Pledging to uphold Roe v. Wade, he resonates with progressive voters. In stark contrast, Trump positions himself as a pro-life candidate, advocating for stricter abortion regulations and promising Supreme Court justices with the aim to overturn Roe v. Wade. Healthcare becomes a critical focal point, with Biden championing the Affordable Care Act, ACA, and proposing the expansion of affordable health care through a public option. Conversely, Trump advocates for replacing the ACA with a market-based system, emphasizing greater competition among insurance providers. Education takes center stage in the campaign, with Biden proposing increased funding for public schools and expanded access to early childhood education. Trump, on the other hand, prioritizes school choice, advocating for the expansion of charter schools and voucher programs. Economic policies emerge as a key battleground, with Biden emphasizing equity to address income inequality and Trump highlighting his previous economic record, advocating for further tax cuts, deregulation, and trade policies. Foreign policy and national security assume significance as Biden focuses on rebuilding alliances and restoring America's global standing, while Trump champions an America First foreign policy, emphasizing renegotiating trade deals and addressing perceived unfair practices. LGBT rights draw attention, with Biden supporting the Equality Act and pledging to champion LGBTQ+ rights, while Trump faces criticism for rolling back certain protections during his previous term. The climate crisis takes center stage in Biden's comprehensive plan, contrasting with Trump's skepticism and emphasis on promoting fossil fuels. Democracy and voting rights become central issues, with Biden prioritizing election integrity and expanding access to voting, while Trump raises concerns about voter fraud and supports stricter voting regulations. As the candidates navigate these intricate issues, the nation eagerly awaits a decisive outcome in the upcoming 2024 election. Public reaction. As the 2024 U.S. elections loom on the horizon, a sense of concern and skepticism about the state of democracy pervades the American public. According to a recent poll conducted by the Associated Press, NORC Center for Public Affairs Research, 51% of U.S. adults believe that democracy is not working well. This sentiment reflects a lack of confidence in the governing system's ability to address pressing issues faced by the nation. The poll also reveals that 62% of adults believe democracy in the U.S. could be at risk depending on the 2024 election outcome. This concern is shared across party lines, with Democrats fearing a potential re-election of Donald Trump and erosion of democratic values, while Republicans express concerns about Joe Biden's policies undermining their core principles. The 2024 elections hold unprecedented significance for the future of U.S. democracy. Respondents rank the future of democracy as the second most important issue, with 67% considering it very or extremely important. This closely follows the economy, deemed the most crucial issue by 75% of respondents. This underscores the widespread recognition that the election's outcome will have far-reaching implications for the nation's governance and democratic values. Moreover, the poll found that government spending and immigration are also considered equally important to the future of democracy, with 67% and 66% of respondents ranking them as very or extremely important. These issues are intertwined with the functioning of democracy and the government's ability to address the concerns and aspirations of the American American people. There's a growing recognition that the democratic system is not effectively representing the interests and concerns of the people on a range of issues. The lackluster views about democracy's functioning indicate a need for a more responsive and effective governance system to address pressing challenges. Concerns about the potential re-election of Donald Trump have been raised by Democrats who fear the erosion of checks and balances within the government. They worry about retribution against political opponents and the potential misuse of powers, posing a significant threat to democratic principles. Democrats also express concerns about the weaponization of the federal government under a second Trump term. Cases against him are seen as evidence of political prosecution, raising fears of continued government weaponization to target adversaries and consolidate power. They point to the election subversion and document cases against him as evidence that Biden has used the federal government to prosecute a political opponent. This perceived misuse of power raises alarm bells among Democrats who fear that Trump would continue to weaponize the government to target his political adversaries and consolidate his own authority. Furthermore, Democrats worry about the potential impact of a Trump presidency on the balance of power between the executive branch and other branches of government. They argue that Trump's desire to reduce checks and balances within the government could lead to an unprecedented concentration of power in the presidency. This concentration of power, according to Democrats, would undermine the democratic principles of separation of powers and checks and balances that are essential for a healthy democracy. The concerns of Democrats also extend to the broader implications of a Trump presidency on the American population and various sectors of the government. They fear that Trump's policies and actions would have a detrimental impact on marginalized communities, civil rights, and social justice issues. Democrats argue that Trump's rhetoric and policies have already exacerbated divisions within the country, and a second term could further deepen these divisions, threatening the social fabric of the nation. In addition to concerns about the potential re-election of Donald Trump, Republicans worry about the possibility of Joe Biden securing another term. They believe that Biden's policies pose a significant threat to their values of limited government, individual freedom, and economic prosperity. Key concerns surrounding Biden include his rock-bottom approval ratings and doubts about his fitness for a second term. Questions about his mental acuity and ability to lead effectively have become points of contention among voters. Despite signs of economic recovery, concerns about grocery prices and high rents persist, leaving some voters feeling insecure. Biden's handling of issues such as immigration has also left him vulnerable to criticism from both sides of the political spectrum. Republicans also express concerns about the potential threats to freedom under a second Biden term. They argue that Biden's support for policies such as gun control and restrictions on free speech could infringe upon the rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Republicans believe in the importance of protecting individual liberties and worry that a Biden presidency would undermine these fundamental rights. Furthermore, Republicans are concerned about the potential mandates and regulations that could be imposed under a Biden administration. They believe that Biden's agenda, including his stance on issues such as climate change and healthcare, would lead to burdensome regulations and requirements that limit individual choice and autonomy. Republicans advocate for limited government intervention and believe that individuals should have the freedom to make their own decisions without excessive government interference. The concerns and fears expressed by both Democrats and Republicans regarding the 2024 U.S. presidential election reflect a deep worry about the state of democracy in the United States. Democrats fear the potential risks of a Trump presidency, citing concerns about authoritarianism and the erosion of democratic norms. On the other hand, Republicans express their worries about government overreach and the potential infringement on individual freedoms under another Biden administration. As the 2024 elections approach, it is crucial for the American public to engage in informed and constructive dialogue about the future of democracy. The outcome of the elections will shape the trajectory of the nation and determine the course of action on critical issues. It is a time for reflection, active participation, and a commitment to upholding the democratic values that form the foundation of the United States. As the nation stands at a critical juncture, the outcome of the 2024 election will have far-reaching consequences for the future of democracy in the United States. The American people hold the power to shape the trajectory of their democracy, and the choices made in the upcoming election will determine the path forward. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.